Welcome to the video lessons presented by Dr. VRR Government College, Jadcherla. Friends, today we are going to discuss muscle tissue, types of muscles, muscle contraction mechanism. And this lesson will be dealt in two parts. In the first part, we are going to deal with the muscle, types of muscles, and in the second part, we are going to deal with the muscle contraction mechanism. Let us get started. The contents of today's lesson in part 1, introduction, types of muscles, properties of muscles. And in part 2, we will discuss the ultrastructure of skeletal myofibril, muscle proteins and their properties, and sliding filament theory, which explains the mechanism of muscle contraction. Okay. Friends, you know very well about the muscles. Muscles are nothing but the biological machines that convert the chemical energy, which is in the form of ATP, into the mechanical energy, or we can say the movement of particular organ or the entire organism. Muscles are also useful for generating heat. So anyway, muscles are a very special type of tissues, and these are useful to convert the chemical energy into mechanical energy or into thermal energy. Okay, muscle tissue is very special. No doubt, muscle tissue is derived from mesoderm, except some few muscles like eye muscles, especially the ciliary muscle and also iris muscle. And muscle tissue is very special. Why? Because it is having no matrix. Generally, any tissue is having two components, the cells of the tissue and the binding substance called matrix. You take, for example, blood tissue. The blood cells are there and a binding substance called plasma is there. You take, for example, epithelial tissue, epithelial cells and cementing matrix. Likewise, bone osteocytes and ostein material, or nervous tissue, neurons and neuroglia. But it is the only tissue, muscle is the only tissue which has no matrix at all. Because matrix is the binding substance of the muscle fibers, if it is present, it will not allow the movement. So that's why matrix is totally absent in muscle tissue. This is the tissue that is responsible for bringing movements in our body, making a proper posture of our body. So when we are standing, we have our own specific posture. When we are sitting, by the posture itself, we can recognize so and so person is there. Okay. So by maintaining the posture of our body, different postures, and the movements of our body parts, and the movement of the entire body, that is called locomotion. And you know very well, animals are having this very important tissue. And this is the major difference between the kingdom Animalia and kingdom Plantae. Okay? Plants don't have muscles. Only the animals are having muscles because animals are having the dire need of movement. Okay? Only a very few animals like sponges and certain cnidarians, they are completely sessile, but many animals, almost all animals except these few, are moving or maintaining locomotion. For the purpose of in search of food they are moving, or for the purpose of a safety place, or in escape from the danger or from predators. Generally animals move from place to place. In addition to these, animals also move from place to place for the purpose of searching their mate or for the purpose of reproduction. Okay, movement is a very important thing. Locomotion is a very important phenomenon to conduct all the life processes in animals. So that's why muscle tissue is playing a very important role in animals. Okay, what kind of movements, what kind of mechanism, or what kind of things that a muscle is doing in our body? Yes, it is responsible for the movement of food in our digestive tract. The digestive tract is having smooth muscles, and the muscles move in a wavy manner. Such a wave-like contraction is called peristalsis. And muscles are performing rhythmic contractions. You take, for example, our heart, systole, diastole, systole, diastole. So these rhythmic contractions make a very important phenomenon called pumping of blood. And even the blood vessels, they are also having smooth muscle fibers. So they also expand or they also react to the movement of the blood in the blood vessels. Okay, and the breathing movements, the chest muscles, the intercostal muscles, we say, the external intercostal muscles, okay, internal intercostal muscles. Especially we use external intercostal muscles for the purpose of breathing in and breathing out. Okay, that is a very, very important phenomenon. And that phenomenon brings air inside. Okay, as a result of that, the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide will take place. Okay, and then in the ureters, the urine will be moving, or in the excretory system, the movement of urine. And you take, for example, the ejection of milk. All these are responsible, all these are occurring with the help of a very, very special tissue, and that tissue is nothing but a muscle tissue. As I mentioned, muscle is a very, very important organ for generating heat. When we are living in a very severe cold conditions, automatically our muscles start shivering. And the shivering of our muscles result in some friction, and that generates heat. So in that, it maintains our body temperature also whenever temperature is needed, whenever heat is needed, and the heat can be generated by the locomotion, by the movement of the muscles. And these kinds of movements, the locomotion or the movements, can be done by even lower grade organisms, unicellular organisms also. You take, for example, a paramecium. It moves with the help of cilia. The ciliary locomotion is also a kind of muscle movements. You take, for example, amoeba, pseudopodial movement, or you take, for example, euglena or the flagellates. Their flagellae, cilia, pseudopodia are bringing in locomotion. All that is nothing but the muscle movements, and under lower grade conditions. Even in higher grade animals like human beings, we have some cilia in our body, and we have some what is that called, pseudopodia. Okay, the phagocytes move from place to place by utilizing pseudopodia. These are all the movements, and these movements are because of muscle tissue or elements of muscle. Okay, or as I mentioned in the very first point, in the beginning, all muscles are originated from mesoderm, except the ciliary muscle, ciliary organ muscle, or that is iris muscle. Okay, the ciliary body muscle and iris muscle are derived from ectoderm. Okay, the rest of the muscles are definitely derived from mesoderm only. In a human body, the number of muscles is not so specific. It is more than 600. Depending upon the age, depending upon the sex, the number of muscles may be changing. So more than 600 muscles are there, and all these muscles are resulting 40 to 50% of our body weight. After the bones, muscles take a lot of what is that called, proportion in bringing weight to our body. The study of muscles is called myology, and muscle cells are having special properties. If you give a stimulus, it will contract. If you give a proper stimulus, okay, it will result in twitch. It results in contraction. There may be depolarization, repolarization, hyperpolarization. Just like a nerve cell, muscle fiber will also result in responding to a stimulus. If a stimulus having a threshold strength, definitely it will show its response. Okay, so a kymograph is a machine or is a device that is used in the laboratories to analyze the muscle contraction mechanisms and different stages of muscle contraction. That's called kymograph. Kymograph. Okay, so this is called excitability of a muscle. And when you give a stimulus, some muscles will contract and relax. This is called contractility. And some muscles will expand, extend, and relax. That is called extensibility, contractility, extensibility. Okay, you take for example the biceps muscle. biceps muscle will contract and relax. And opposite antagonistic to that, there is a triceps muscle that will extend and relax. Okay, muscles are of different types. They are antagonistic muscles. Okay, they are pronotor muscles, they are supinotor muscles, they are protractor muscles, they are retractor muscles, they are elevator muscles, they are depressor muscles, they are flexor muscles, they are extensor muscles. Several varieties of muscles are there, classified on the basis of their action and also function. So this is the contractility or extensibility. And the third one is elasticity. Elasticity means muscle will come back to its original position after its work is over. When it is contracting, it will reduce its size and it will come back to its normal size. That is called elasticity. These are the very important properties of a muscle. Okay, because muscle is a very, very special tissue, it must have special components. Okay, that's why the muscle cell is modified, adapted to perform these functions. That's why we call the muscle cell as myocyte, or especially we call it as a sarcocyte. And its protoplasm is called sarcoplasm. And its plasma lemma is called sarcolemma. Okay, muscle fiber, plasma lemma, sarcolemma. And muscle fibers, endoplasmic reticulum is called sarcoplasmic reticulum. And muscle fiber is having mitochondria, and these mitochondria are called sarcosomes. Terminology is also different because they perform a little bit different function when compared to the normal cells. So that's why muscle tissue and muscle cells actually called muscle fibers. Muscle cells are very, very long and like a fiber. They are called muscle fibers, are very much specialized. Okay, let us see various types of muscles. Muscles are classified on the basis of their appearance, on the basis of their control, and on the basis of their attachment or their location into three types. They are skeletal muscles, which are also known as voluntary muscles or striated muscles or striped muscles. The second variety of muscles is smooth muscles or involuntary muscles or visceral muscles or non-striated muscles or unstriped muscles. And then the cardiac muscles, the muscles which are forming the walls of our heart or myocardium. So that is very, very important. So these three varieties of muscles are there classified on the basis of their working nature, their place of location, their appearance. Okay. Skeletal muscle, let's see the skeletal muscle. See, it is called skeletal muscle because it is associated or it is attached to a bone. The skeletal structure, the bone. So that's why it is called a skeletal muscle. It is attached to the bone. And the speciality of the skeletal muscle is that it will contract or relax according to our conscious control. That's why they are called voluntary muscles. Okay, if I want to lift my arm, I can lift because the muscle here, what is there, okay, the elevator muscle, what is there, is under my control, working under my conscious control. Hence, the muscles what are attached to the skeletal system are almost all under our control. All the muscles are called skeletal muscles because they are attached to the bones. But the muscles that are there, intrinsic muscles, what are there in the tongue? So those muscles are also voluntary muscles, but they are not attached to the bone. That's one exception. Okay, these muscles, the skeletal muscles, are attached to the skeletal structure called bone with the help of a connective tissue that is called tendon. Tendon is the connective tissue with which a muscle attaches to a bone. Okay, when muscle is contracting, the contraction pull is transferred to a bone by means of the tendon. Okay, tendons are unstretchable connective tissues. They transfer the entire muscle pull to a bone so that a structure with the bone will be moving like this. Okay, so between a bone and a muscle, there is a connective tissue called tendon. If it is cord like, it is called tendon, or if it is a sheet like, That connective tissue is not called tendon, but it is called epineurium. Okay. Now, epineurosis. Okay. Next, let us see the structure or morphology of a muscle. Okay. Entire muscle is covered with a membrane called epimysium, connective tissue. Epimysium, this is. Okay, what does a muscle is having? What does a muscle have? A muscle has several blocks inside. Okay, several stacks or several blocks inside. And each of this block is known as a fascicle. Several fascicles are there. Okay, each fascicle, a muscle is composed of number of fascicles. You see here how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. Several fascicles constitute a muscle. Each fascicle is surrounded by the second layer of the muscle, that is called perimysium. Above, epimysium, outer layer. The middle layer is called perimysium. Okay, what does a fascicle have? A fascicle is having a lot of inner structures called muscle fibers. You see muscle fibers. Each muscle fiber is surrounded by another layer called connective tissue layer, endomysium. So, coming from outside to inside, perimysium that covers the entire muscle. Epimysium that covers the entire muscle. Perimysium that covers the fascicles. Endomysium that covers a muscle fiber. Muscle fiber is nothing but muscle cell. And what does a muscle fiber have inside? A muscle fiber, in addition to having the sarcoplasm, sarcoplasmic reticulum, sarcosomes, in addition to that, a skeletal muscle fiber is also having small fibrils. These fibrils are surrounded by sarcoplasmic reticulum, sarcolemma, and these are called myofibrils. And the myofibrils are having proteins: actin, myosin, trypomyosin, troponin, like that. Several proteins are there forming what is that called myofibril. So let me tell you the structures from inside to outside. Myofibril. Several myofibrils stacked together to form a muscle fiber. Several muscle fibers are bunched to form a fascicle. Several fascicles are bunched to form a muscle. Okay, what are the connective tissue layers that are surrounding? Number 1, epimysium, perimysium, endomysium. Okay, this is the broad structure of external morphology or internal morphology of a striated muscle, otherwise called voluntary muscle. Okay, these are the 3 layers. It is working under our conscious control. Let us see some more details. Okay. As I mentioned, the muscles are of 3 types: skeletal muscles, visceral muscles, and cardiac muscles. A skeletal muscle, let us see under a microscope. This is the skeletal muscle. A skeletal muscle is consisting of several skeletal muscle fibers. Several, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. 4 muscle fibers are there here. How are these muscle fibers? You just see, these are cylindrical with the truncated ends. Ends are not tapered here, ends are bluntly ended. So this is a cylindrical muscle fiber. And this cylindrical muscle fiber is having number of nuclei. Nuclei are many here. Around 35 nuclei are there. In one muscle fiber, approximately 35 muscle fibers are there. So it forms a multinucleated structure called syncytium. A syncytium is that structure which is having many nuclei. And the nuclei are not separated by the septa. So many nuclei are there. That means, what does that indicate? It indicates that during the development, embryonic development, lot of myoblasts come close together and join with one another to form a syncytium. This is called skeletal muscle syncytium. Almost all 35 nuclei are there, indicating 35 myoblasts fuse to form one muscle fiber, and that is a process called myogenesis. Myogenesis is a formation of muscle fiber. And myoblasts come close together and combine with one another. All together they form a muscle fiber. So as many as 35 nuclei are there. Okay, how are these nuclei? These nuclei are almost all ovoid and arranged parallel to the axis of the muscle. They are arranged parallel. This is the axis, and the nuclei are also arranged in this way. They are arranged parallel. And you will see in a skeletal muscle certain striations, horizontal striations, a dark band, a light band, a dark band, a light band. Dark and light striations are there, stripes are there, hence the name striated muscles. Okay, these horizontal striations are nothing but the proper arrangement of muscle proteins called actin and myosin. Okay, skeletal muscle fibers are having some special features. You see, this is the skeletal muscle. Its contraction is very, very rapid, very quick contraction, very rapid contraction. Okay, unlike other muscles, you take for example a smooth muscle. What is there in our esophagus? In esophagus wall is made up of smooth muscle, and if we swallow the food not dropped in the stomach suddenly, but is dropped slowly, because the contractions are very, very slow there. But in the case of skeletal muscles, we can move very fast, either our head or we can blink our eyes, and the fast movements, fast contractions are there, rapid contractions are there, quick responses are there from the skeletal muscles. But their contractions are not only rapid, but they are powerful. Their contractions are powerful, rapid. And because they can perform repeated contractions, they can fatigue also very quickly. They feel tiresome very, very quickly. After repeated contractions, a muscle fails to contract further, fail to respond further. And such a failure of contraction after repeated contractions is called a muscle fatigue. And this is because of accumulation of lactic acid. Okay, so they contract quickly and they fatigue quickly. Their contractions are powerful. What I am speaking is about a striated muscle or a voluntary muscle. Okay, let us also see. So how is the length? The length is from 1 centimeter to 30 centimeters. Okay, there are many nuclei, and nuclei are peripheral, okay, ovoid, parallel to the long axis. They are located, they are peripheral means they are located just beneath the sarcolemma. They are not located in the center region, they are located just beneath the sarcolemma. And the myofilaments are there here. These are all myosin filaments forming dark band, and actin filaments are forming light band. Okay, so these bands are very, very specific. That's why they are called striated muscles. And these striated muscles or skeletal muscles are innervated by somatic motor nerves. Somatic motor nerves, that is under our voluntary control. And if a muscle is damaged or injured, it can be regenerated by some special stem cells called satellite cells. But the regeneration is somewhat limited. Okay. And the skeletal muscles are attached with bones, either with what is that called cord-like tendon or with a sheet-like aponeurosis. So cord-like tendon and sheet-like aponeurosis. Okay, right. Next, let's see the next variety of muscles. This is called smooth muscles. Okay, the smooth muscles are smooth because they have no striations. So the stripes are absent. That's why they are called smooth muscles. If you see the shape of the muscle fiber here is having spindle shape. And you see the ends, the tips of the muscle fiber. The tips of the muscle fiber are completely tapered. Tapered tips are there. Okay, these are spindle shaped with a single nucleus located almost all in the central region. And these smooth muscles are called visceral muscles because they are forming the walls of the viscera. Viscera like urinary bladder, uterus, stomach, intestine, and the wall of the blood vessels, trachea, and excretory structures, reproductive structures. Okay, so in these structures, these smooth muscles are there. Not only that, they are also present at the base of our hair follicles. They are called erector pili or pileo-erector muscles. So when we face to a very strange situation all of a sudden, so we develop goosebumps. These are because of the contractions of erector pili. Or else, if in our surrounding area is very, very cold, very cool, then to prevent the loss of heat, all the air pores, air apertures will be closed by the contraction of the erector pili. And certain smooth muscles, what are there here in our eyes, controlling the lens, what is that called, focal length or lens, the power, lens power. So there are ciliary body muscles and iris muscle, the black part in our eye, okay, that can be constricted or dilated with the help of iris muscle. Okay, so these are the smooth muscles. Let's see some more characters. And the smooth muscles are innervated by autonomic nerves. That's why they are not under our conscious control. Okay, their contraction is very slow and wave-like. Wave-like contraction is called peristalsis. Their contraction may be taking for a long time and sustained contraction, and they remain in contracted state for longer period. Unlike skeletal muscles, their contraction is quick and relaxation is quick. But here they can remain in contracted state for longer period. So contractions are sustainable contractions. Okay, and these smooth muscle fibers may be having multi-unit or they may be having in single unit. So you take, for example, a group of smooth muscle fibers. If the nerves are innervated to many parts of many different cells or muscle fibers, and that is working as a multi-unit. For example, eyes and pileo-erector muscles. If all the muscles in a particular part are connected with only one set of nerves, then all will perform a coordinated contraction as a single unit. A muscle, you see a muscle structure or a muscle, what is that called, mass. If it is contracting at many levels, that is called multi-unit, or if it is contracting as a single unit, that is called single unit muscle. Okay, single unit muscle is uterus, intestine, and urinary bladder. So, how is the shape of the cell? It is a spindle shape. Only one nucleus is there, uninucleus, and these muscles are in the form of layers. The diameter of this muscle may be 1 micron to 8 micrometers. Or what is that? The length may be 20 micrometers in blood vessels, 200 micrometers in intestine, but very, very long in the case of expanded uterus during pregnancy. That may be 500 micrometers. Okay, friends, the last variety of muscles is cardiac muscle. Very, very important muscle. Cardiac muscle is forming the heart walls, the atria, the ventricles. They are having a very special middle layer that is made up of these cardiac muscles, that is called myocardium. Okay, these cardiac muscles are often described as an intermediate structures between the striated and non-striated, between the voluntary and involuntary muscles, because like striated muscles, skeletal muscles, these are having striations. These are having striations just like striated muscle. But just like smooth muscles, their contractions are not under our voluntary. So that's why in one property they are resembling skeletal muscles, in the other property they are resembling smooth muscles. These are the muscle fibers are cylindrical here, but they are branched. They are branched. So the cell-to-cell communication occurs through gap junctions. Gap junctions are those junctions so that one cell is directly communicating with the other cell through small tubes, channels. And through these channels, lot of materials, ions, glucose will flow from one cell to another cell. That's why their contraction is very, very efficient and continuous 24 hours a day. Okay? Because of having gap junctions. And to increase the strength of contraction, they are having intercalated discs. You see here, intercalated discs are there. These intercalated discs are very, very specific and unique to these cardiac muscles. Okay, all the muscles in a particular area forming a set, and that single unit or that unit is known as myocardium. Some of the cardiac muscles in our heart are modified into a very special muscle tissue called the pacemaker. You take for example SCA node, sinoatrial node. This sinoatrial node is acting as a pacemaker, and at regular intervals it releases the stimuli, potentials, action potential, so that based on that the heart muscles perform systole and diastole. And these muscles are highly resistant to the fatigue. They never undergo fatigue because of their structure is built like that. They are regulated by autonomous nervous system, and also certain hormones like adrenaline, etc. So certain hormones are also playing a very, very important role in the heartbeat. They are reddish in appearance because they are having a oxygen storing pigment. That pigment is known as myoglobin. Okay, these are about cardiac muscles. You see, these are skeletal muscles, these are smooth muscles, and these are cardiac muscles. And you can compare it very easily. The cells, muscle fibers are cylindrical, muscle fibers are spindle, muscle fibers are cylindrical but branched. Okay, so multinucleate condition, uninucleate condition, generally uninucleate, but during function they will become multinucleate. Okay, quickly respond, slowly respond, rhythmically respond. Quickly fatigue, slowly fatigue, no fatigue. Okay, so in the junctions, what is gap junctions are not there, but here there are gap junctions. Intercalated discs are not there, but here intercalated discs are there. Okay, so this is a very important comparison among these structures. Types of muscle fibers. A muscle is having muscle fibers. These muscle fibers are two types: red fibers and white fibers. You take for example the gastrocnemius muscle, that means the shank muscle. Okay, the shank muscle, which is the muscle that is having these two fibers equally. The red fibers are having more hemoglobin, that is myoglobin. More myoglobin is there, and more amount of myoglobin, and more mitochondria are there, so that the energy can be utilized very quickly. Oxygen can be stored in greater quantities. Okay, so that they are called aerobic fibers. They can give a very fast contraction. Okay, and they can give a powerful contraction, rather I say. So they are having myoglobin. Myoglobin is a reddish pigment. That's why these fibers appear reddish in color. Okay, they are aerobic fibers because they utilize oxygen. Let us see the other variety of muscle fibers in a muscle. Okay, these are called white fibers. White fibers are having very less myoglobin, and mitochondria are also very, very few, but more sarcoplasmic reticulum is there, and they can conduct aerobic respiration as well as anaerobic respiration also. Okay, where the glucose will be converted anaerobically into lactic acid. Okay, short-term contraction but a high intensity of contractions. Red fibers, long-term contraction with low intensity of contraction. White fibers, short-term contraction. Their contraction is not so sustainable. Short-term contractions, but intensity is very high here. So these muscle fibers are normally located in any muscle. If more red fibers are there, it appears reddish in color. So, but in certain muscles, these two fibers are equally distributed. So, what are the properties of muscle? How do muscles react, and what are their special properties? As I mentioned in the very beginning introduction, muscles are the biological machines that convert the chemical energy into mechanical energy or heat. And they are having a very important property that if you give the stimulus, it will show the response. This is called excitability because they are reacting to a particular stimulus. And contractility. Some muscle, if you give the stimulus, it will contract and relax. That is called contractility. It will become shorter and thicker. That is called contractility, and later relaxes to its normal position. Some muscles will extend and relax. Extend means they will become thinner, longer and thinner, and they come to their normal position. So excitability is there, contractility, and what is that called extensibility. And every muscle cell or every muscle fiber, muscle cells are called muscle fibers. Every muscle fiber after contracting, it will come to its normal position, or after extending, it will come to its normal position. This is called elasticity. Elasticity means it is capable of returning to its normal shape and position. And every muscle, especially the skeletal muscles, after performing the repeated contractions, they undergo into a stage called fatigue. It is the stage in which a muscle will not respond at all if you give a higher order stimulus. And so it will take some time because of accumulation of lactic acid. So the muscle will undergo absolute refractory period. And after some time, during that time, we get some pain, muscle pains. Okay, and after some time, it will recover to its normal position by removing all the lactic acid by a very, very special cycle that is called Cori and Cori cycle. Okay, what is Cori cycle? Cori cycle is a very, very important two-way traffic between liver and muscle. It is a traffic between liver and muscle. What is moving? The movement here between the muscle and the liver is a very important metabolite that is formed in the muscle as a result of anaerobic respiration. That's called lactic acid. When a muscle is performing rapid contractions, you take, for example, when you are running very fast. When you are running very fast, you just imagine a mad dog is running behind you. That's why you are running very fast. You cannot stop your running in the middle. You cannot stop in the middle. Even though the muscle requires more oxygen, but the blood is not supplying that much of oxygen. Under such very difficult situations, what a muscle can do? It cannot stop its contraction in order to save the life. That's why the white muscle fibers, they undergo what is that called anaerobic respiration. They convert what is that called muscle glycogen into glucose and then into lactic acid. By converting it into lactic acid, some energy is produced. That energy is utilized under very critical conditions and it will complete its work. But after that, what happens? The muscle undergoes fatigue because of corrosive substance called lactic acid. And after that, the lactic acid is a very harming acid in the muscle, so it can be transported into the liver. After it is transported into the liver converts 80% of the lactic acid what has come into the liver into pyruvic acid. And this pyruvic acid produces glycogen by gluconeogenesis. Okay, so liver converts the lactic acid into pyruvic acid, and pyruvic acid is converted into glucose by gluconeogenesis, and glucose is converted into muscle glycogen by glycogenesis. How much is converted? 80%. But what happened to the 20% of lactic acid? The 20% of the volume of lactic acid which reached the liver from the muscle is burnt for getting energy to run this cycle. Okay, it is very much energy efficient. So this cycle where between the liver and muscle the traffic of lactic acid and glycogen occurs, and this is called Cori cycle. Okay, so friends, this is the first part of the video. And in the next part of the video, let us discuss the structure of a skeletal myofibril and also discuss what is the mechanism of muscle contraction. Thank you for watching.